My name is Sandra Evans, and I never thought my life could change so drastically in one day. Just yesterday, I was an inconspicuous employee in the huge corporation TechVision Inc. in San Francisco, and today I stand on the threshold of completely changing my fate and the fate of the company my father built from scratch. I had been working at TechVision for 5 years, patiently enduring the neglect and humiliation from the current CEO, James Hartley. No one suspected that behind the facade of a modest assistant was the real owner of the controlling stake in the company, and now the moment had come when the truth was about to come out. The morning at the TechVision office began as usual. I arrived at 7:30, dressed in my usual gray suit, and started preparing coffee for the board of directors, whose meeting was due to start at 9 o'clock. At 32, I had learned to be invisible and efficient. It had become my best cover.
Sandra, where are the reports I asked for yesterday?
James Hartley's sharp voice rang out.
And bring me coffee. No sugar, as always.
I nodded with a servile smile, watching as James and his closest allies, CFO Alex Rogers and Marketing Director Melissa Green, entered the boardroom, laughing and discussing their recent trip to Las Vegas.
"Did you see his new Ferrari?"
Melissa whispered to Alex.
"They say it cost $500,000.
They didn't know that every conversation, every deal, and every corrupt decision had been carefully documented by me over the past 5 years. On my personal computer, protected by the most advanced security systems, I kept evidence of embezzlement, offshore accounts, and bribes that had tarnished the reputation of the once respected company. In my tiny office, I was reviewing for the last time the documents that were about to change everything. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Mike Donovan, the private detective I had hired. "Evidence of Hartley's fraud in the Silicon Valley project is irrefutable. Good luck." I remembered my last conversation with my father in the hospital 5 years ago. "Dad, I promise, I'll get back what belongs to us," I had whispered then, as he quietly handed me the documents confirming my right to the company.
"Beware of James,"
were his last words.
"He's a snake in an expensive suit."
In the boardroom, the meeting was in full swing. James was boasting about a new technology project.
"Thanks to cutting research and development costs, our profit has increased by 50%.
He was saying, while Melissa casually took notes.
"Sandra, bring more coffee,"
Alex ordered, not even looking at me. As I served the coffee, I noticed Melissa quickly hiding a folder with the logo of a Cayman Islands bank. There, I knew, was where the money stolen from the company was kept. A barely noticeable smile flashed across my face. Tomorrow would be the day. An extraordinary shareholders' meeting had been scheduled, and none of them suspected it would be their last day in power. The main conference hall of TechVision was bustling with activity. Minority shareholders, notaries, and lawyers were taking their seats, while James Hartley sat at the head of the table with his usual self-confident smirk.
"Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, someone call Evans to bring coffee,"
James ordered, eliciting restrained smiles from his minions.
"That won't be necessary,"
my voice sounded from the door. I entered, but this time not in my usual gray suit. I was wearing an impeccable black designer suit, red high heels, and my posture radiated confidence and power. James's face changed when he saw me. Following me were 2 FBI agents and the famous corporate lawyer David Stern.
"What does this mean? Who gave you permission?"
James began, but I interrupted him.
"Dear shareholders,"
my voice was firm and clear,
"I am Sandra Evans, daughter of Robert Evans, the founder of this company and owner of 51% of TechVision Inc. shares."
A murmur of surprise spread through the hall. Melissa dropped her tablet, and Alex choked on his water.
"This is absurd,"
he shouted, standing up.
"Security!"
James yelled. Security is already aware of the situation, I replied with a smile. Chaos began in the hall. Minority shareholders looked at each other in bewilderment as I displayed letters and bank documents on the main screen. How did you forge my father's signature on his deathbed, James? Or how did you threaten his doctor to change the death certificate? I asked, looking straight into the eyes of the man who had stolen the company from me 5 years ago. FBI agents began to move strategically towards the exits. Melissa, trying to maintain calm, intervened. "Sandra, dear, I'm sure we can come to an agreement."
"An agreement?
Like the one you made with Judge Thompson? I have recordings of those conversations too, I replied. Alex, seeing everything falling apart, tried to play his last card. "She's lying! This is a conspiracy!" I pulled out the last document. "Like you planned in Las Vegas last month? I have witnesses, recordings, and every document confirming your crimes." James, realizing he was cornered, suddenly jumped up, pulling some device out of his pocket.
"All you need to know is that I can destroy everything you love,"
he shouted, pressing a button. At that moment, all the screens in the room froze. Panic momentarily gripped everyone present, but remained calm. "You won't be able to do that, James," I said, my voice as hard as stone. "You've already lost everything. You can destroy the servers, but you can't destroy the truth." My words, like a sharp knife, pierced the atmosphere of tense silence. All eyes turned to me. I stood face to face with the man who had tried to destroy my family, my company, and my future. James was clearly on the verge of a nervous breakdown. His eyes were full of hatred and fear. His hand holding the device was slightly trembling. But I was ready for anything. I knew my opponent couldn't defeat me. "James," I continued, softening my tone, "think about your daughter, Emily. How do you want her to remember you? Do you want her to be proud of you? Or do you want her to learn that you destroyed everything we built?" This message was a blow below the belt, but it was necessary. James looked as if he had been wounded. His gaze lost focus, and his hand lowered slightly. At that moment, one of the FBI agents standing nearby rushed forward and disarmed James. James Hartley was arrested and stripped of all his power in the company. His plan had failed. The room filled with a deep sigh of relief. I addressed the gathering. "Today, we have written a new chapter in the history of this company. This is not just a victory over corruption. It's a victory for the future. We will restore justice and return the company to the hands of those who truly care about it." I nodded to the auditor and gave him the signal to start reviewing all the documents. At that moment, I felt that my struggle had not been in vain. I had not just saved the company, but restored my family's honor and strengthened its future. But although I had already achieved my goal, this victory was, in essence, just the beginning of the journey. There was a long process of restoration ahead, but I was ready for it. With such a determined spirit, and with the support of those who believed in me, I could handle any threat. In the hall, all eyes were fixed on James and me. We exchanged tense glances. "James," I said softly, "Emily is better than you think. We've been communicating for many years." These words shocked James. "That's impossible," he whispered. "She knew something was wrong with the company. She came to me 2 years ago, worried about you. Remember that bracelet she gave you for your last birthday? Or the Stephen King book she supposedly bought at the bookstore?" James's eyes filled with tears. His mask of arrogance began to crumble. She said it was from a friend at work," he mumbled. I took another step forward. "James, you still have a chance to do something right. For Emily's sake." The data erasure device fell from his hands. "I just wanted to give her the best," he mumbled, his voice breaking. "I know," I replied. "But money isn't everything. She needs a father, not a fugitive criminal." Breaking into tears, James fell to his knees. FBI agents approached to arrest him. "Ladies and gentlemen, shareholders," I addressed the hall. "This ends here. It's time to build a new future for TechVision." The silence after James's capitulation was broken by applause. At first it was timid, but soon the entire audience was applauding. The tension disappeared, giving way to relief and admiration. Touched, I raised my hands to calm everyone. "Thank you, but this is not my personal triumph. This is the beginning of a new era for the company." I went to the big screen, activated a presentation, and graphs and projects appeared on the screen. Our first step is to create a new, transparent, and ethical board of directors. We will implement new standards and create an independent ethics committee. We will also open a fund to support young talents in the technology sphere. A murmur of approval filled the hall. "It's time to make TechVision known for its innovations and honesty, not greed," I added. I paused, looking into the eyes of each person present. I know many of you are wondering why I chose this path, why I didn't reveal my identity earlier. The answer is simple. I needed to understand every mechanism of this company, from the lowest to the highest level. I had to personally experience all the injustices to then eradicate them. My voice trembled slightly, but I remained firm. My father created this company not only to make money, but to change the world for the better. And today we begin not only to restore his legacy, but to build a future that we will all be proud of. The ovation was deafening. Everyone stood up and applauded. At that moment, the doors opened again, and a young woman ran into the hall. She threw herself into my arms. "You did it, Aunt Sandra!" exclaimed Emily, James's daughter, with tears in her eyes. "Dad will understand when he realizes everything." I hugged my niece, symbolizing reconciliation and a new start. 6 months later, I sat in my new CEO office, looking at the panorama of San Francisco through huge windows. TechVision had not only survived the storm, but was thriving under my new leadership. A light knock on the door brought me out of my thoughts. It was Laura Chen, an old friend of my father and now a member of the new Ethics Council. "Sandra, dear, the results for the first half of the year are just amazing," Laura said with a smile. "The shares have skyrocketed, and our new projects in artificial intelligence are gaining recognition everywhere." I nodded, satisfied but still understanding that the path ahead was long. "Thank you, Laura. And how's the reintegration program?" "All is well. James is fully cooperating with us from under house arrest. Emily is doing a great job heading our new educational fund." I noticed a photograph on my desk. It was an image of me and my father many years ago, smiling at the old TechVision office. "You know, Laura," I said quietly, "sometimes I wonder if he would be proud of how I organized all this." Laura put her hand on my shoulder. "Dear, he would be more than proud. You've turned his legacy into something greater and nobler than he could ever have dreamed of." I smiled, experiencing mixed feelings of nostalgia and determination. "Thank you, Laura. Now ready for the meeting with new investors." We left the office, ready to face new challenges that lay ahead. There was a long road ahead, but I was confident that together we could make TechVision not only a successful company, but a force for good in the world of technology. As we walked down the corridor, I noticed young employees nodding respectfully to me. Their eyes were burning with enthusiasm and hope. I realized that my struggle was not only for the company or my father's memory, but for the future of these young talents, for their dreams and ideas. In the conference room, representatives of major technology companies and venture funds were waiting for us. They were interested in collaborating with the renewed TechVision. I began the presentation talking about our new projects in quantum computing and clean technologies. I saw the investors' eyes light up when I spoke about our vision of a future where technology serves for the benefit of all humanity. After the meeting, when the last investor had left the building, I returned to my office. The sun was already setting on the horizon, painting the San Francisco sky in shades of pink and gold. I approached the window and looked at the city my father had loved so much. I remembered his words, which he often repeated. "Sandra, true success is measured not by money, but by how you've changed the world for the better." At that moment, I felt that I had finally truly understood these words. My journey from an inconspicuous assistant to CEO was not just about personal revenge or restoring justice. It was about creating a legacy that goes far beyond one company or one family. I took out my father's old notebook from the desk drawer. On the first page was his favorite quote: "Great opportunities are born from great challenges." I smiled, realizing that my biggest challenge was just beginning. There was a lot of work ahead. We needed not only to restore the company's reputation, but also to set new standards of ethics in the technology industry. We needed to inspire a new generation of innovators and entrepreneurs. I sat at the desk and started writing a plan for the next year. New projects, educational initiatives, social responsibility programs. All of this was taking shape in my imagination. When I finished, it was already well past midnight. I looked at my father's photograph once more and whispered, "We're just getting started, Dad. We're just getting started." Turning off the light in the office, I walked out into the corridor. The building was almost empty, but I knew that tomorrow it would again be filled with energy and ideas. And I would be here, ready to lead TechVision and everyone with us into the future we are creating together. Descending in the elevator, I thought about how much had changed over these months. From fear and uncertainty, I had come to strength and determination. From loneliness, to the support of a whole team of like-minded people. Exiting the building, I took a deep breath of the cool night air of San Francisco. The city never sleeps, and I could feel its pulse, its tireless movement forward. Like me, it was always ready for new challenges and opportunities. Getting into my car, I looked one last time at the TechVision logo on the building's facade. It glowed in the darkness, like a beacon pointing the way to the future. And I knew we were on the right path. Tomorrow would be a new day, full of new opportunities and challenges, and I was ready to meet it with an open heart and a clear mind, knowing that each step brings us closer to the future my father dreamed of, and which has now become my mission.